everybody that's caught in between, that's really, I would say, incompetent to the fact and importance of self-defense, is saying, we need gun control. We need gun control. It's like, what is happening? Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Prep Life. On this special breakout session, we're talking about good shoots versus bad shoots. Man, I look very camo. Getting ready for hunting season already. But first, before we get into that, let's talk about Kim Campbell. I just interviewed Kim Campbell for the Black Rifle Coffee podcast. Her book, Flying in the Face of Fear. She's a retired full bird colonel, 06, that just retired out of the Air Force Academy. You might not recognize the name, but in the military, she's pretty well known. Her situation, at least, is pretty well known. She was the A-10 pilot who was nearly shot down in Baghdad, Iraq in 2003 during the invasion when she was providing close air support. She was actually doing a gun run on a bridge when she was impacted by a surface-to-air missile that put 600-plus holes in her A-10. She limped back to base, refitted, and went to work the next day. That's just what people do when we're not considering like, oh, it's a female versus a male, or we're focused on ethnicity and just doing the thing. We're focused on good people, warriors, doing the job. Like A-10 pilots getting it done. And I appreciate her story. We also did a small docu-series called Stories of Survival on Black Rifle Coffee's YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. It's going to be released next month. I'm just giving you the teaser. But I'm super stoked about that because Fieldcraft Productions were the ones who filmed that. But it's a compelling story, and I want to promote people who are doing awesome stuff. She served in combat multiple times in multiple theaters, and just retired out of the Air Force Academy. But this is a compelling story, and it's really cool talking to her. Again, Kim Campbell, Flying in the Face of Fear. If you've been watching the news, you've been recognizing in national media how they spin everything. I talked about it on Prep Life this week about this shooting that took place in Kansas City, Missouri, where now students are protesting this because they want justice. No justice, no peace. And everybody is calling this a racially motivated shooting where an 85-year-old man defending his home shot through a door and winded up shooting and nearly killing a 16-year-old African-American kid. Now, it should just be like, hey, this is a crappy situation. This is a person who shot through the door, mistaken identity, whatever it was, but they're making this racially charged and racially motivated, including calling the 85-year-old a racist, even protesting on the street outside of his home before he was actually put in jail. As per the standard operating procedure in Kansas City, Missouri, they go through an investigative process, and if they decide to charge him, they roll them up, but they wait until they decide to charge him. So at the time, they brought him in, questioned him, determined they were going to make charges, but they released him in the interim, and they winded up going back out and rolling him up. But this shouldn't be controversial, but it is now. Because if you're watching this news from Canada, Australia, all the places that actually tyrannically are suppressing and oppressing their people, then you would think that this is an epidemic across the country of 360 million human beings. And it's not. But I want to talk about good shoot versus bad shoot because this does bring up the argument over stand your ground laws and the justification for those laws. Now, let me read verbatim what it says as a definition of stand your ground. Stand your ground law is a legal principle that allows individuals to use deadly force and self-defense without the obligation to retreat from a confrontation. It grants individuals the right, the inherent right, to protect themselves with lethal force if they feel they are being threatened, regardless of whether or not they can safely retreat from the situation. Stand your ground laws vary by state and can apply to both public and private property. The concept of stand your ground law is controversial, with some arguing that it promotes violence and vigilantism, while others argue that it is necessary to protect individuals' right to self-defense. Now, there is a difference, like this case that happened in upstate New York, where these kids, I mean, essentially their kids. A 20-year-old girl and her friends are looking for their friend's house. They get lost in upstate New York. They don't have cell phone reception. They pull up into a private drive. When they do so, there's 2 vehicles and supposedly a motorcycle. And when they do that, they pull up and they're going to turn around, and the owner of the home comes out of the house and shoots 2 rounds into the vehicle, and one of these rounds ends up hitting a 20-year-old woman in the neck, and she dies. They wind up offsetting. They get away. They get cell phone reception. They call 911, and she's already dead. So there's a profound difference between the perception of threat, standing your ground, and recklessly shooting into a vehicle that's fleeing from your property because you're in fear for your life. So, one, I think stand your ground is essential. I think it's important. But let's also talk about stand your ground. I mean, we're talking about a case in Texas now where a Uber driver, who happened to be also a military guy, drops off a BLM protester, gets caught into a protest of civil unrest of people banging on his vehicle, and they lock him in, essentially. He tries to move through them. A guy arrives with an AK-47, and he defends his life because he sees the guy with the AK-47 posturing or raising the gun at him, however he perceived it. He just got convicted of murder. So in a situation where stand your ground is obviously in Texas and extends to your domicile in your vehicle, you would think that's a clear-cut case of self-defense. It's not, because he just got convicted of murder. According to the governor of Texas, now they're looking to overthrow that because it sets a new precedent that if you're a radical DA and you get people who are on your side or on your team, they could actually put you in prison for something that's clear-cut as your perception of threat. Like, I perceived that this person was going to kill me. I didn't want to die. I defended my life in my vehicle, in my home, and now you're getting thrown in prison for murder. That is very different, profoundly, than negligently shooting through a door at a 16-year-old kid who's lost. The 16-year-old kid wasn't trying to break into the home. The 16-year-old kid wasn't violently trying to attack the resident. He was knocking on a door because he thought he had the right house, because he was trying to pick up his siblings, and he went to the wrong house, and he nearly paid with it with his life. I mean, he got shot in the head and got shot in the arm before he got up and ran, had to go to multiple houses, and almost died for it. So clear-cut cases where the media is trying to spin the fact that it's trying to claim that there are people in this country that are radical, racist, that are reckless with guns. So what's the answer here? Well, by every stretch of your imagination, you would guess, yes, it's gun control. So the media is pushing the narrative. Everybody that's caught in between, that's really, I would say, incompetent to the fact and importance of self-defense, is saying, we need gun control. We need gun control. It's like, what the hell is happening? One, this is not systemic. This is actually very rare. Two, they never report on the cases of law-abiding citizens defending themselves from radical, extreme, violent actors, including people who are trying to murder you and defending their life within the confines of the law, which is a detriment to people's perception of gun control, gun advocacy, and responsible gun ownership. Like, the people committing the crime with guns that you should be raising your fist for are the African-American kids who are being gunned down in the inner city by other African-Americans. That's not a farce, a stretch, my imagination. That is the statistical fact of what's taking place. But you won't hear anything about that in the national narrative, and that's unfortunate, because law-abiding citizens who are doing the right thing are never getting reported. And I get it. That's just the world we live in. I just wanted to clarify for you, because these things that are coming out in national media that are fitting their narrative, Surprisingly, are everybody that I'm seeing buying into this are literally following the sheep. And all of them, unless there's like 1,000 bots on ABC or 1,000 bots, which could be true actually, on CNN, everybody's jumping on this bandwagon. Like, we need to get rid of guns. Like, no, the answer is never get rid of guns. Because when you disarm yourself, Washington, California, Colorado, Washington, D.C., the list goes on, you're not armed to protect yourself, but guess who is? The violent criminal who doesn't follow your stupid laws. The violent criminal who doesn't care what laws you make. So the only thing you're oppressing is your own individual constitutional rights to bear and defend your life and the life of your family. Who do you think is going to come to save you? Law enforcement is great. First responders are great. But they are minutes away when you need help right here and right now. Guys, Fieldcraft Survival, make sure you check out the Fieldcraft Survival channel. I've never plugged the Fieldcraft Survival channel, which is unfortunate. I apologize for that. We're also doing a big sale, a winter purge. It's called the spring cleaning sale. That will be coming to you. I told the team this morning, I'm like, hey, man, we need to offer these savings. We're in a downtrodden economy. There's recession. Our prices might be too high. Let's offer some incentives. Spring cleaning sale where we're like slashing all the prices, trying to get the stuff out the door to you. If you guys are on board, make sure you check the links down below. Subscribe, hit the notification tab. I will be in Colorado. I'm on my way right now, likely, by the time you're hearing this. I'm going to Colorado to train with Matt Vandy, Matt Shea, all my peoples out in Denver, Colorado. We will be training where people are in desperate need of training. California, Washington State, Colorado, to train law-abiding citizens who still need to be better prepared. I appreciate you guys. Till next time. I'll see you next week. Till next time. Peace out, guys.